Bailey Storms here, all the way from Spokane, Washington. So, welcome them. Looks like they've got all kinds of interesting giveaways. So, um, go ahead. Here's Jessica.
Thank you. And this is obviously a small group. I was looking at who was going to be in the other breakout sessions, and I knew it was after, there's some good sessions going on at this time too. Really? Okay. Well, thank you for being here. And we've got some different giveaway items we brought just as a show of appreciation for being here and learning more about us at AgWest. So as she mentioned, my name is Jessica Harper, and I live actually in North Idaho in a climate not too terribly different from the Anchorage area. I've got a small farm myself and work at our corporate office at AgWest. Quick show of hands, how many people know what AgWest is? Couple in the room? Okay, great. Well, we are essentially, I'll just put it in layman terms, we're cooperative, like many of you are aware of, but we're a lending institution. So we write loans to farmers and ranchers and fishermen and folks in mariculture. So we've been doing this now for about 100 years, and that's all we do is finance agriculture. So we actually can't lend outside of that space. And because of that, we have a lot of expertise in working with lots of different types of farms and ranches.
So I'm Bailey Storms, and I work on our lending staff. So not only am I part of the Alaska team, but I am also from Idaho Falls. So it's a small area, kind of right along the Montana-Wyoming line. I'm about off the border about an hour. So I live in a high mountain desert. So my climate is nothing like this or Anchorage. A lot of lava rock and a lot of pine trees on one side, and a very dry area. So thank you for having us. And like Jessica said, obviously we've got a little bit of a smaller group, but I'm hoping that it'll be really interactive and dynamic. And goal is for everybody to get a lot out of it, and a learning experience for both you and us. So as Jessica mentioned, we are a finance and insurance institution for farmers and ranchers. So just going through a couple of the products that we offer. So on the agricultural lending side, that looks like real estate financing, operating financing, and then intermediate term, which could be for equipment. In my area, people are probably going to be buying cattle on some of those intermediate term notes. So that's usually a 5 to 7 year term. And then we have different forms of insurance. So ones that are related to weather events, so like multi-peril, hail. There's dairy revenue protection to help some of those producers with prices. There's livestock revenue, a couple others. And then we also have a consumer lending side of things that is called our country home loan division. And so that's going to be for like a bare lot loan. So even if it has remote access, but you want this like a recreational property or something to eventually build some sort of structure to either vacation on or live in, we can do loans for that. And then rural home loans. So most areas in Alaska are going to qualify for that criteria. And then we do have appraisals. So because we do in-house real estate financing, we also have an in-house real estate appraisal team. And then one of the kind of value-added services that we offer as a cooperative, so not only do our borrowers get a patronage dividend back, meaning that we are returning profits to customers, so we're sharing in our success as a customer success, but we also have a business management center where every resource on there is available free of charge to customers. So we have a team solely dedicated to designing business learning, any type of business planning, and just different topics that borrowers want to see, as well as industry insights. And sometimes that's going to look like maybe a hybrid event. So something that somebody can come into a local branch location down in our offices, or they can join via Zoom. It's something that they can go to in person. So something that we'll talk about in a little bit is what we call our New Producer Summit. So it's an event that we hold annually. We had it in Tempe, Arizona, back in February, so about a month ago, and we actually were able to take a couple producers from Alaska to that. So all they had to do was get themselves there, and everything was paid for. So really unique opportunity, and it's just one of, again, like I said, one of the value added pieces of AgWest.
Thank you. So the program that I work with specifically and that Bailey also focuses on is called AgVision. And AgVision is a program within AgWest Farm Credit that is only for young, beginning, and small farmers. So in order to qualify for this, you need to meet one of those three criteria, either be 35 years of age or less, have farmed professionally, not working on a farm, it doesn't count, like managing your own business for less than 10 years, or that you earn less than $350,000 in gross farm income. So if you meet one of those three criteria, you are eligible for a whole bunch of different benefits. And there's a number of items there listed in the bullet points. Appraisal fees. Appraisals in Alaska are so expensive. And if you can find an appraiser, or if they'll take the time to go visit your farm, they're so expensive. And we have encountered that firsthand with many farms that we've worked with. Well, thankfully, we've got certified general appraisers that can come up and do those, or we do fee them out, and we'll help pay for those appraisals to help, because a lot of people don't think about that when they go to get a loan. They don't realize all the kind of hidden costs that are associated with especially real estate purchases, and we can help that with the AgVision program. The reason why we have this program is because it's part of our mission to serve new producers. We want to make sure that agriculture continues and that we've got a strong pipeline of new people getting started. So we're trying to reduce barriers by offering all of these different things. People like Bailey are very sharp in the business space, so she understands very well how to prepare a cash flow budget, how to work on balance sheets, how to write good business plans, all of the things related to finance. And so we've got a whole team of people in our AgVision program that's what they do. They'll sit down next to you and say, okay, we don't expect that you're going to understand how to do, a year's worth of cash flow projections. So let us teach you how to do it. And because they've been doing it for so long with farmers, they really understand in a way that is, I think, pretty special, because a lot of people that have other lending institutions don't focus on agriculture like we do. So in addition to that, we have reduced underwriting guidelines, and that's super important. People don't think about that, but we don't expect small farmers or beginning farmers to have a balance sheet that looks like some of our farmers that have been, are much older or have been farming for many, many years. And so we reduce those underwriting guidelines to make sure that you still have access to capital, even though maybe on paper it looks a little bit more challenging than it would for somebody with a lot more experience and financial background. As Bailey mentioned, we have a lot of different management seminars. Actually, if you go to our website under recordings, you can see a lot of those. You can get access to our videos about business management on demand. And so anyone, whether you're a customer or not, can understand better how to put together a balance sheet. And the reason why we do that is we want to make it not seem so intimidating, and we understand it's super important for you to understand your numbers. A lot of our beginning farmers just think, well, I'll just pay an accountant to have that done. But we hear a lot of stories about new farmers that don't understand their business very well. They'll pay somebody else to manage their books for them, and they're in more financial trouble than they might realize because they didn't pay attention. They just paid somebody to do their books for them. And so we try to help build up that financial management acumen. We've also got education and technology reimbursement benefits. So people at first think they're kind of surprised, but we will reimburse you up to $1,000 for a technology purchase for your farm or ranch. And that could be something related to production ag. It could be, last week I think we did a couple for some small drones people were using. We've done it for Wi-Fi improvements, computers, things like that, because we want to know that our producers have got access to good technology. And then we also will reimburse you up to $1,000 for education costs. So to come here, for instance, for those who had to pay maybe quite a bit of money to travel here from a long distance, if you were an AgWest customer and you sent us your receipt and the agenda for this event, we would reimburse you up to $1,000, because we want to know that you, again, aren't isolated and missing important information. So we're really fortunate to have this AgVision program to help people just like you. As part of that, we also acknowledge that for a lot of people, debt is not the right thing. And we are super happy to support producers who just say, I'm not ready for debt yet. I'm going to bootstrap this thing as long as I can, because for many, that's the right thing to do. But there's also big purchases when you're starting a farm sometimes that need to be made. And so because of that, we're creating new opportunities for beginning producers. That's people who have not been farming professionally for more than 2 years. And we'll have a $15,000 grant for folks that have a good business plan. They'll put together a cash flow budget. The main part of that is just to see that they've done the steps to understand the ebbs and flows of when the money's coming in and when the money's going out, to determine how they're going to meet those shortfalls in those short cash months. For instance, in the spring, farmers have got a lot of expenses, but they're not going to make a harvest until quite a bit later in the year. So a lot of new farmers don't realize that an operating line of credit is a great solution to that. Frequently, farmers only get paid a couple of times a year. AgWest Farm Credit can come in through the use of a cash flow budget and determine with you how much money you're going to need for your operating year, advance you those funds, and then when you get paid towards the end of the year, then you can get your loan paid back off. So a lot of first-time farmers don't know how that whole process works. So what we see is they'll put things on credit cards or all different sorts of things. And then when we try to help get them set up financially, things are kind of a mess. So what we're trying to do through this grant is meet people right as they're getting started and try to teach them how you should manage your finances as a farmer. We've had a really great response from folks in Alaska. So we have 30 grants. Now the AgWest territory we cover, as Bailey had mentioned, a wide range across the West Coast from Alaska to Arizona. So we cover 7 states in the West. And we divide those 30 grants as equally as we can among those 7 states, but it's also a merit-based grant. So those that provide the strongest applications win. On your tables, there's a flyer for the grant. So if you know a new farmer, I would encourage you to take a look at that and share it with people that you know. We would love to see more Alaska producers apply and be awarded the grant. And I want to make a plug while I've got you here that there's an organization out of Minnesota, the Center for Farm Financial Management. And if you want to build a good business plan, they have got a wonderful tool online that can help you do that. There's all kind of videos and templates. Depending upon the type of farm or ranch or business that you have, you can select the template that you want. And business plans can be intimidating, but they really help make it a lot more user-friendly. So has anybody heard of AgPlan? Okay, well, you get a pair of gardening gloves for that. Okay, so the grant will be open until the end of May. And as you can see, we've got one of Alaska's own in the room that was a previous grant winner. So congratulations.
It was absolutely amazing to be, I mean, I felt really honored to be awarded, but also, uh, you know, the cost of infrastructure in Alaska is so much greater than elsewhere. So, those investments can be really big upfront, but they can also be what help you grow as a farm. And yeah, I've been able to use that money to do as a small scale producer. I didn't just do one thing with the money. I've done many things with the money, including some really amazing fencing so that I can keep all my plants away from the moose. But yeah, it's been incredible and a total game changer, because this was stuff where instead of building the infrastructure, probably over the course of like 5 to 10 years, we're able to do it in like 2 or 3. Thank you.
Okay, so again, you've got the flyer on your table, but this is just more information about it, and the details are on our website as well. So we want to take a few minutes to get to know you.
So, this little exercise is something fun that we have done at some other events. And so, some example photos here. So, basically, just want each of you to take out your phone and pick one picture of your operation that something that you're proud of, something that you're working on, or, maybe even if you have a screenshot of like something that's on your vision board. We would love for you to pick one photo, and then we're going to take just a couple minutes to kind of mingle with each other and make friends and talk about your operations because you're all doing something really special and we want to hear you brag about that a little bit. Yeah, so it's 2:15 now. So let's go ahead and pick your photo and then pick someone that you don't know to visit with. And then at 2:20, let's kind of reconvene and try to talk to maybe 2 people. Yeah. For those who maybe can't hear, if you're on Zoom, what we'd like to do to continue to foster the spirit of the exercise is if you're able to share a photo in the Zoom chat, maybe just share a photo and then a brief description of your operation so that everyone online can also see that. So just maybe to kind of kick things off. So I'm part of the Idaho Cattlemen's Association. And so up in Lewiston, Idaho, I was able to go on a tour of one of our state representatives' ranches. And so this is a picture of a heifer on their operation. Actually, that's a cow. Sorry, not a heifer. And then last summer, I had the chance to attend the Homer Peony Festival and do a couple farm tours on that. And so there's a picture from some of my experiences last summer. Okay, so sorry, we're a little bit over time, but I think worthwhile conversations were happening. So a good use. We can go ahead and get to the next slide.
Okay, so this is an opportunity now to start to hear from you. This is actually a woman named Shawnry who is farming in a very hot climate. We were on a farm visit down there and it was over 120 that day. She farms tepary beans, and they're a very important cultural food in that area, and they work a lot with the tribes and the hospital there to raise these beans. They're absolutely beautiful. They look like Easter eggs and orca whales. And so Shawnry was actually a new producer grant winner not that long ago. So what we want to do today is you can't see the words that are on these 2 slides, but as Bailey mentioned, we were in Tempe, Arizona. We had about 100 of our customers from Alaska to Arizona that converged in this room together, and we were just talking about like what's great about farming and what's really challenging about farming. And I think the thing that's neat about this is as we look at these slides, when you think about biggest challenges, they said, and this is again people from Alaska to Arizona, they said things like access to capital, because even if you can get it, then it's just the cash flow that it takes, right, to be able to repay that capital. It's not just even the access, it's just the repayment can get tricky in those really lean years. Things like prices, regulation, marketing, labor, daylight, not enough of it, business partners, volatility, input costs. Doesn't matter where you are, those are bad. Alaska, obviously, even more so. Community partners. And then things that are big opportunities, they think growth, being a new producer, strong relationships, learning, changing markets, growing appreciation for local food, diversity, virgin ground, specialty fruit. So what we want to do is hear from you. One of our goals for having this conversation is we do know that things are a lot different here in Alaska too. Just like we have come to appreciate, Arizona is very, very different for completely different reasons. So what we'd like to find out, and I'm just going to write down your answers, is what topic are you most passionate about, obviously within this food space? And how can you use this to drive positive change in your farming community?
And one of the things to point out here, that was a takeaway for us was just that, yes, we had producers all the way from literally Alaska to Arizona, and in between. And even though they all have such different commodities that they work in and obviously live in such different climates, so many of the ideas and so many of the dreams, if you will, but also the challenges and kind of the hurdles to get there were very similar. And so I think that it was a really good, realization even for us on the AgWest side of yeah, there may be a lot of geographic difference and there may be a lot of cultural difference and, as we've learned, a lot of cost difference among the areas. But ultimately, the spirit of it is the same. Like everyone has this passion for agriculture, and there's a way to figure it out. And so, the biggest thing that we hope to get out of this from you guys with this is also to learn how can AgWest best help Alaska. So I'll walk around with the mic. So again, the question is, how can you use this to drive positive change in your farming community? And if there's anything that comes over the Zoom, please just flag us so we can add it to our list. Does somebody at this table have one?
I know what I'm kind of most passionate about is that our hoop house has been so successful. We were fortunate to get a guy that's just got a green thumb. I mean, he just runs away with it. So he's actually put in for a third hoops. So with that expansion, that's going to mean, you know, different kinds of vegetables and stuff that we'll be able to bring to Larson Bay. So.
So being able to expand the commodities that you grow, but then also the learning opportunity and then potential ability to teach others. Okay, anybody else?
I am passionate about two things. One is just growing food. I love feeding people, and I feel like that's always making positive change, and just like helping get people in my community knowing where they can get local food. And I'm also passionate about land access, because that, even though Alaska is huge and there's a lot of land, a lot of it's not great for agriculture, or it's way more difficult and it's really costly. And I'm really passionate about land access.
Anybody else?
I guess I'm an animal farmer. I raise pigs, but one of the things that we were really passionate about was finding species and finding varietals that thrive well in northern climates and cold climates, and figuring out how we can take advantage of our unique climate that we're in, and find species that enjoy that environment and kind of work in concert, so that our unique climate is, instead of just viewing it as an obstacle, finding a way to have a unique product that really speaks to the unique environment that we're in. And so I think, yeah, I think that could be a positive change for Alaska agriculture in general. But what I've learned. Yeah, we raise Mangalitsa hogs, and so that's a breed that comes from some colder climates in Europe, and so we had to go outside of the state to bring in breeding stock, and that's pretty different from traditional hog farming. It's a little bit harder to find information on practices, how to raise these heritage breeds, and so just really, it's pretty research heavy. Finding other people that are kind of in a similar space, like raising a niche product, is definitely more challenging as far as just finding a community of people to learn from. But once you kind of break through that barrier, I think if you can end up with a unique product and something that makes you stand out, it can be really advantageous. So.
Thank you. Yeah. Anything from Zoom? Okay.
I'm really passionate about extending the season or the length of time for which farmers can sell their products, year-round food access. Specifically, I do vegetables, and I have seen a positive change for my own farm. I am improving my storage practices every year, and I try to share this information with as many people as possible. And I think it's making an impact, because people ask me a lot of questions about how to do storage and long-term storage. So I hope that we see more farms doing that soon.
We have a group that feeds kids healthy, fresh meals, and we've been able to get access to vegetables that kids would have never gotten their hands on and tried, including microgreens. I mean, we had times where at the beginning of the season we were serving kids in the summer, they wouldn't touch the microgreens. They would take them off their sandwiches to at the end of the summer when they were exposed to it, they were just that was the first thing they were going for. So when you have the exposure of kids to all these different sorts of vegetables that they've never been able to access before, for whatever reason, it's empowering. And that's what inspires me, is to get kids learning what they haven't ever seen before, and it's actually really good to eat and healthy. Anything for our extension folks? Okay. Awesome.
I don't know if it's a passion but I'm always having to look for different avenues of funding, being an administrator, so that we can continue what we do now and make sure that, it's, we're going to become sustainable. And so I'm more at, my passion would be looking for the funding sources and to be able just to continue and try new things, like, Uzinki over there now, there's trying coffee beans. And so it's something that we can try new, or watermelons and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just I like to look for the funding sources.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so this is our question. How can you use, what are you most passionate about, and how can you use it to drive positive change within your community?
I was 15 years ago. I ended up with this dance group. Well, my people's youth and elders, whole bunch of youth, few elders, and a couple moms. And I've been overrun by kids for the past 15 years. And it's not my job, but I've been trying to figure out how to get them to inherit all the work that I do, because my actual job is actually pretty challenging. And I've started to take the kids around with me to some of the job sites in some of these villages, but I can't do it by myself. I have to have one of the moms with me, one of the aunties, because I mean, kids are just too much. And so, I mean, I'm not getting any younger and they don't go away. So I got to put them to work. But I don't trust them with everybody. I mean, just because I'm stuck with them, they're still my kids. I mean, so I mean, I trust their moms, their aunties. I trust certain people with them. So, I mean, getting the knowledge on hand within a structure that is accountable to who we work for is my biggest thing. So ensuring that the moms have capacity to fill in the roles of our actual business plan, and being able to take these kids and put them to work so that they can inherit the system is what I'm most passionate about, and what we're trying to really create our structure to incorporate and foster.
So, a lot of people ask me on a daily basis that I work with them, like, well, what's your background in ag? Why do you do this? Why am I the face of AgWest directly with the producers that I work with? So the answer is no. My parents had town jobs, but I had the fortunate opportunity to live out of town in a farming community. I participated in a lot of 4-H programs. So growing up, it was a very rural area. So I had a lot of extended family involved in that. And I think that when you're surrounded by that, there's something about it that gets stuck in you, and you do develop a passion for it. So, to answer this myself, like, what am I passionate about is seeing people keep an industry thriving. We're seeing a very different world. We're seeing a world where people also have a desire to know where their food is coming from. And so being able to support those with the ideas and with the knowledge to make it happen, because I have a different skill set than them. I have the numbers, I have the budgeting, I've got this side. So being able to help them, being able to be a resource, but then also being able to help them say no. Because I think one of the hard things to hear in the industry is no. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's no forever. It's no right now. And how do we figure out how to get it to a yes? How do we figure out how to get it to work for both you and the people that you're serving? So with that, I think any other things to add? Yeah, any questions up to now? Okay. So Jessica's going to tell us a little bit about these folks. We had the unique opportunity to interact with them at our event last month.
We just wanted to take an opportunity to share some success stories. I think that talking about the new producer grant and showing pictures of people that have had positive experiences to help grow their farm and ranch through working with our company is really helpful because, you know, I don't recall your name, I apologize, but I love your point about I'm trying to find more ways for funding, because one of the frustrations that I have working in this food space. So my answer to the previous slide, I didn't get to answer it, but I do believe that health is wealth. I think that health is at the very top of everything, because when we're healthy, we think better, we do better, everything works better. And that starts with the food that we put in our bodies. It's like seeing your picture that you shared with all of that abundant fruits and vegetables, and the kids, your daughter that was in her picture, like that's life changing, right? So I just think that we all need to share more positive stories, because even though things are really hard, like I've watched both of you, you guys are doing really cool things. I got to learn more about all the things that are going on at Larson that I had no idea. But you know, there's a lot of doom and gloom out there, but if we can share the positive stories, I do think that that can snowball. So this is Scott and Christy, and they're now AgWest customers, but they farmed up here in Alaska. And it's so funny to think that they went from Alaska, where it's so cold, to now they're in Arizona. It's so hot that, do you know that solar does not work in Arizona because it melts? Literally, you can't do solar in a lot of parts of Arizona because the units will melt. It is that hot. If my Uber driver had bought his 12-year-old daughter a little karaoke machine for her birthday, and he was so excited that night for her birthday party to give it to her. And when he got off of work, the karaoke machine had melted in the car. So that's like, I think I'd rather be cold than be that hot. But anyway, so they left Alaska for Arizona, and Christy's very open about her health challenges, but she experienced some really crazy, scary stuff with cancer, and she got better with these pickles, these homemade pickles that her and her husband were, and it kind of started on this cycle of her eating better and feeding herself better, and she slowly got better and better. But she realized kind of the corporate life that she had too was also contributing to her sense of just not loving the life that she was in. But she started studying on goats, kind of like you with your pigs, and her heart just got so fulfilled with the thought of having a farm and raising better food. And so they built this farm. And Scott said, you know, I used to come home from work and I would be really worried about how she might seem, you know, she was going to be depressed or whatever. She was in severe physical pain. It was related to her bones. And he said instead she'd have this whole list of all these chores that they had to do to build their farm. Well, they got to, because land is so very expensive, they bought a piece of ground that is pretty far out of town, super desert, no infrastructure, nothing. And they bought these really heat tolerant goats. Now they've got well over 100 of them. And it's a Hartquist Hollow farm. They're online and everything, but they realized that there was a lot of, just like here, processing challenges. There was no place for them to process a lot of their livestock. And when COVID happened, they couldn't make their kill dates. And so they were feeding their animals longer than they needed to, and that was costing them money. So they contacted AgWest and they said, okay, we want to build a facility. These are relatively new farmers, and they're now saying, no, we're going to navigate the challenges of USDA and building a processing plant in the middle of the desert, super far away from town. And through just bit by bit, little by little, working with a man named Matt, who's like in a role like Bailey, they are now a USDA inspected meat processing plant in the middle of the desert, and it's working. We went to tour there, and they're so happy, and it's just, it was not easy, but they build a team of the community around them, and so now all the other producers are able to bring in their livestock a lot closer, and you know make their slaughter dates and things. But they also, they started out at a farmer's market. They started out very humbly. They were making their pickles at home. She said, I knew I needed to change when I walked into my house, and like every counter had, mason jars with all of my products on it waiting to go to the market. But she just said, if you would have asked me, 5 years ago, if I would be where I am today, I probably would have said no. And so we just feel honored to be a part of producers' lives. And so while, yes, we are a bank and a lending institution, I know that what we do is so much more than that. And if you told me like you're going to work at a bank, I would say, I don't think so. I've got a greenhouse too. I grow food. Like I said, I believe that health is wealth. But we are sincerely here to help Alaskan producers and share what we have to offer. Like you said, looking for funding so that we can help more people like you grow food to feed your communities even better.
So we've got one more question for you guys that we want to maybe just kind of go around the room again with. And this is the positive side of it. So what opportunities, or I guess all positive, because all opportunity within it, and something to look forward to. So as far as like your goals, like what opportunities, but also threats do you see, or obstacles on the way to get there? And then how can we help? So what do you envision the next year to look like? What do you envision the next 5 years to look like? And is there anything that, maybe you don't necessarily want to be a customer, but what is there in your community that AgWest can be a resource to or help with, to, like Jessica said, support Alaskan agriculture and support your communities?
Our opportunities, right now like we said, we're getting a new hoop house or high tunnel. And which will allow us to grow, things differently and, different products. And the challenges that we have as a farmer is the lack of laborers. This year, we're kind of fortunate because we're going to probably keep two in the village without having to going out and doing the fishing season. Because usually summertime they're commercial fishing, but this year I don't think it's going to do too well by the forecasts. And how you guys can help, all I know is I'm going to be on your website and picking somebody's brain.
Well, yes, I hope you are on the website, and I hope you take full advantage of all of it.
I think Marilyn hit it spot on. Like opportunities, the third hoop, that's great. Papa and Elizabeth are going to be able to do so much with that. The labor is, in the village, there's not many residents, so there's not a workforce really. That is a big challenge for us. Yep. And I think Marilyn's right about, out there looking for grant money, trying to keep things, it's expensive to live in the village. At $1 a pound to get freight out there, we've got to try to do everything we can to keep costs down. So, yeah, I guess.
So maybe one of the things, just in summary, would be like the efficiency of being able to do things with less in terms of less labor, but still produce the same or more. And then I guess just want to maybe make a plug. So again, I think it is rare for a financial institution to be literally handing out grants to places. So not only is the new producer grant something that we do, and those applications do close at the end of May, but we have a monthly revolving grant that's called the Rural Community Grant. A nonprofit group can apply for that every 12 months. It has to be for a different purpose, but it can be for infrastructure, capital expenditure, startup costs. So there's maybe something that could help with a project, or even potential establishment of this hoop house if it's going to be for community purposes. But for everybody, that's something that's available to apply for. And if you ever need help with that, I'm actively making myself available to you for that. I would happily write you one. Oh, perfect. It sounds like we've got one from Zoom. Oh. Sorry.
The rural community grants that we looked at were amazing, but they required a letter of support from an AgWest employee, or I think there was one, or a customer, yeah. And so I knew I was coming here, so I'd be able to meet you folks. But the bottom line is, yeah, it looks amazing, and there's opportunities for nonprofits through that. So
And those rural community grants go for a lot of different things. We've helped with playground equipment, fire departments, but through the AgVision program, we love any that are related to local food. So any one that you hear, like I said, Bailey does a lot of support letters, and I do too. So either one of us can be a great reference for that. So how about from this table, any opportunities you have or challenges you feel, or lastly, things that we can do? What do you want to see from a lender? That would really help us tremendously.
I've been thinking over a possible opportunity for me to buy a piece of land abutting my current property. And just in the very beginning stages of penciling through what such a purchase would look like. And a problem that almost always comes up is, how do you pay for your loan payments in that first 12, 18 months while you're not yet generating income? And having a buffer period at the beginning of a loan would be great. Okay.
So I'll start off and then I'll hand it off to Jessica. So I think that depending on how you structure it is going to have a lot to do with that. So depending on the term of it and depending on kind of the timing of everything, in a lot of cases you can potentially start with an interest only payment. So you have to have a payment within the first 12 months of some sort. But to mitigate that high cost of like an actual amortized payment, the other mitigating factor to kind of help keep those payments reasonable would be to utilize programs. So we're a preferred lender with FSA. So being able to utilize like their down payment assistance program or joint financing so that you have a portion of that loan on a lower interest rate, but then they can also term it out quite a bit longer. So some of FSA's rates can go, depending on your loan officer there and like how they structure it too, some of their amortization terms can be out 40 years. So that can be quite a lower payment. And obviously you probably wouldn't want to pay it off for that period of time. But then you can kind of work the two in conjunction. So my initial reaction to that is the way that you structure it and the way that you have a cash flow budget set up. And just working with your person, whether it's probably Whitney for your area, but just working with that to make sure that the timing lines up for your operation. So, depending on when people's cash flow is, depending on when they maybe sell their crops or their calves, that's when we set their payments for to make it more manageable, like you said. Anything to add? Okay. Okay, we've got about 10 minutes left. So, okay.
are any of your grants, like, are you awarded grants from USDA or anything for any of these programs, or you are the grantor? Okay. That's good news.
And so the answer for the Zoom folks, so she asked if any of the grants that we have are somehow sponsored by USDA or other related entities, and the answer is no. We are the funder slash sponsor behind those opportunities. So yeah, we have about 9 minutes left, so I want to just open it up to questions. So if you have questions regarding like how to get started with a budget or a balance sheet, or how do you finance something, or like if you go to a lender, what are they going to be looking for? Or really anything.
Thank you. What I guess I'm wondering, like, if your lending rates are different than, say, like, whatever bank I would go to in my community, or a problem that I faced when trying to purchase like our first like home slash farming property was, there are these programs to help farmers make these purchases through FSA, but first you had to prove that you didn't qualify from a traditional lender. And it was like kind of easy to qualify even for some really things that we definitely couldn't afford. So I was like never able to get that lower rate. And yeah, like how does it work with you all?
So we have our own set of underwriting guidelines, and part of the AgVision benefits are that we have a little bit of reduced, meaning so like when we go to write a loan, whether it be an operating loan, a real estate loan, we look at securing that with certain collateral depending on the type. So type of collateral matches type of loan basically. So we have certain what we call advance rates. So that's basically taking your loan amount divided by the total collateral amount. It's a risk measure for us. So that, along with other focuses on financial metrics and certain other factors, qualify or go into the qualification process for working with AgWest. So in terms of like, can you qualify? The first question is, are you a farmer rancher? Great, then you qualify to apply, and then as long as you meet these other things, then you're eligible. If it is something that you want to utilize an FSA program, we kind of can initiate that sometimes, like on your behalf. So
And just to take that other part of your question related to the interest rate, we've got a couple things going for us that other lenders don't. So we pay patronage. We're a cooperative. So 1.25% interest rate will be paid back to everybody that's a customer in the form of a dividend because we're cooperative in March. So that effectively reduces your interest rate. And because you would be in our AgVision program, your interest rate is already less than all of our other customers that are not in AgVision. So when you combine those two things together, we are really, really competitive, as you'll find with any other bank. Plus, if you do the financing with the Farm Service Agency and us is what we call 50-50 or joint financing, that can be 100% financing for you because 50% of your total loan is with AgWest and 50% is with the FSA. So that's 100. So you don't have that big down payment because we want you to have more cash in the bank to deal with working capital so that if something breaks, you can fix it. So that's a big advantage to working with us. You had a question?
I just wanted to ask, how is this new administration affecting you guys at all?
I shook my head. She asked how the new administration is affecting us. Certainly it's affecting our farmers in a lot of different ways. We are blessed with a lot of diversity in the types of products that we finance across the country through things called participations, just like a mutual fund in a stock portfolio. We bank a lot of different types of farms and ranches. And so if certain commodities are experiencing stress, for instance, tree fruit in Washington right now is having a lot of challenges. People need to eat more apples, right? So that's stressed and our customers are having a hard time in that sector, but we have a lot of other commodities that we finance, cattle. Cattle is a very big part of our business. Cattle has been very strong for quite a while, so that helps to offset it. So we're really blessed. We really are. That diversity helps keep all of us safe and secure.
We're private, or excuse me, government sponsored, but privately run. So our funding does not rely on government sources.
There's no other questions. I think we'll just hand out the rest of our goodies.
Do you guys give loans for like selling, if somebody was going to grow medicinal herbs and then sell those for either spices or teas, does that count too for, okay, thanks.
Oh, I was just curious, what does government sponsored mean?
So the Farm Credit Administration is a national entity. So they are, and Jessica, you can help me out with this. So FCA is like a government reporting agency. So we have to report certain metrics to them. We have to report things like the AgVision program so that they know that, yes, we are doing things to help the young, beginning, and small producers. But so they're a governing agency, so we have to follow guidelines put in place by them, but we are not a government entity.
Thank you.
Do any of the loans opportunities qualify for refinancing existing debt or like reimbursing purchases that have already been made?
Yeah, absolutely. If it was something that's related to agriculture and then the need of funds is to make further investment or have a like operating capital, working capital back into your pocket, yeah, that's definitely something that we can look at.
Thank
Thank you guys so much.